Hello syntax lover. In our last video, we started working on different programs. In this video, the topic that I will cover is called data type in Java, specifically Java primitive data type, and we will go deep inside integral data type that is there in Java. So for that reason, I have already provided a link in the description below where you will find this particular picture and 5 important questions. So let me first explain what this picture is all about. So the data type in Java are broadly classified under two categories, that is called primitive or non-primitive. Well, we can define non-primitive also as composite data type, but in this video we are just focusing on the integral representation of Java. So the primitive, you can see, is subcategorized under Boolean and numeric, and numeric again has been subcategorized under character and integral. Well, you might be wondering why character is under numeric. Basically, character is represented with the help of American Standard Code for Information Interchange, that is called ASCII, and ASCII is a numeric representation. That's the reason. But in this video we are talking about the numeric representation or the integral data type, and there will be a complete separate playlist where I will be producing different programs in regard to characters. So integral or the numeric representation can be subcategorized under floating point and integer. The integer has got 4 representation and the floating point has got 2 representation. So we will see each of these through the help of programs, and eventually we will understand these questions. So let's see what the first question is referring. Define primitive in Java. So what do we mean by primitive in Java? We know that data in Java are stored within the memory location. So in our program, when we are supposed to store one data, well, let me show you that. Let me come to the BlueJ and let me open this particular program and let me show you that. Suppose suppose this is one variable, one memory location. Okay, just consider this one. So this particular memory location will be stored within the primary memory of your system. So that is what it's referring over here. The data in Java is stored in memory location, and those memory locations surely need to have some name. So I have given the name of this memory location as B. It's your choice, whatever name you feel like you can give it. Now a symbolic name for the memory location is called variable. That is fine. These variables represent certain type because you are supposed to store some value within the variable, right? The basic types are primitive, which are predefined by Java language. So the basic data type that you are going to work very often are the primitive type, and these are reserved keyword. So you are not supposed to use these words for some other purpose apart from declaration of the variables. So these words are reserved by JDK or Java. You have to use them only at the time of declaration, not apart from that. Okay, so the next question comes is, what is literal? Well, literal is a value or data used in the program to represent a constant value. Now what do I mean by constant value? Well, this is something which you can say. So if I put a value over here, it's a constant value. You can call this also in the term of literal. So literal value are the one which you are writing at the means like the value which you are putting to a variable, the time when you are defining that variable, and that is done actually within the class. Okay, so we are expecting that this kind of initialization means you will not change the variable value any further in the program. So you can say something like a constant. So literal and constant are very similar. That's the reason there can be another question. You know, this question can be of different types, but ultimately they land up in the same place. So constant in Java refers to a fixed value. So you can see over here these values are fixed. So as long as you run the program, you are going to come across these values only. These values won't change. So it refers to a fixed value that do not change during the execution of a program. So the literal is referring to constant and constant referring to literal. Okay, So now comes the fourth question. This is a very interesting question. Arrange the data type according to their size. Well, the answer is there in the program. I will tell you that. And finally, the fifth question is, what is the difference between float and double? That also will be very clear as we move to the program. So let's now come to the program part. And here is the program which I have written for you guys. Okay, so I already told you that as far as this graphical representation is concerned, the integral data type is broken into two types, integer and floating point, and these are the subcategories. So that's the reason why you will find over here there are four types. Okay, these four types you are coming under the category of integer, and rest two are under the category of floating point or decimal. So what are these types refers to, and why are they existing? It's all because of the data that you are going to use, or the amount of data you are going to use, or number of bytes that will be used to store it in the memory location. Suppose you want to calculate sum of two numbers, and you know that the number which you are going to provide, it will be max 127. What I mean to calculate sum of such input or such number that will not exceed the value 127. If that is so, that means you want to calculate sum of, suppose, 5 and 6. That means you are not exceeding 127. If that is so, you can make use of 1 byte, or you can make use of byte data type, and the representation of byte is actually done with the keyword called byte, or you declare a variable of byte type using the keyword called byte, and the range of the byte is from -128 up to 127. See, right now this program is working very fine. There is no problem, there is no syntax error. But the moment I will change the value of 127 to 128, immediately you will find there is some issue, because it is no longer compatible. The range of the byte is up to 127, or it can be -128, that is fine, but not above that. Means you cannot exceed that particular range. So if you know your value is going to be within 127, you can use a byte. So that's how it will be saving your memory location. So byte will take only one byte in the memory. Okay, similarly, if you know that your value will be ranging in between 32767, not above this, then you can go for short. The short has got 2 bytes, or it will take 2 bytes within the memory. So you can see one thing, if you change the value to 32768, immediately you will get again the same issue, incompatible type. So it should be within the range of 32767, or you can go for 32768 provided if it is negative, and that's the reason why it is in the integral. The integral means it can take the positive number or it can take the negative number. Okay, so remember one thing, each data type which you are going to use, they have got some limitations in regard to number of bytes, in regard to the data range. Okay, so if your value is within this particular range, that means suppose if your value is 500, the 500 is falling above byte, but it is within the range of short. So it is always preferable that you should define your short type variable rather than integer type variable, because short type variable will just take 2 bytes, and that will actually save your memory location. Okay, and in fact the program will look very good. I told you my purpose is to make you people get 100 out of 100. So naturally, when you write short rather than int, when the data has already been specified in the question, that suppose you have to calculate an area, or you have to calculate some simple interest, so they have already given the value. So seeing the value, you need to understand that what data type should you go for. If it is beyond this, then obviously you should go for integer type. Okay, so that's how the thing goes. So now let's come to the integer type. Just see, integer type has got 4 bytes. So it is again starting from negative and it's going up to positive. So it's a pretty long range it's got. So 2147 483 647. So if you are crossing this limit, if you are exceeding this limit, again there will be the compatible issue. So the compatible issue will come. Okay, just like all other cases. So if you find that your value is within this particular range, then there is no problem of using integer type. But if it is exceeding that, even if it is falling beyond that, then you have to go with a long data type, and in fact that's really long. It's 8 byte. So coming back to the question which I asked over here, that arrange the data type according to their size. So what did I mean by that is number of bytes. So it's to start with 1, 2, 4 and 8. That's how I have to answer the following question. It's very important. It's very tricky kind of question. Okay. In my playlist, time and again, every video I will be coming up with different programs and different questions which is very relevant for your exams, and that's the reason why I would suggest you guys subscribe my channel and click the bell icon so that every time when I upload the video you get a notification, and do share my videos among your friends, because I want to increase the number of fan followers who would really fall in love with Java. Okay, so coming back to my next two data type, that is called float and double. Okay, by the way, one more thing, a very interesting point, that is, if you notice one thing, the last symbol or the last letter that I've used over here, that is called L. Whenever you're working on long, okay, don't forget to represent your data. After that you have to add one extra character that is called L. It can be in uppercase, it can be in lowercase, no problem. There is no issue with that. See, there is no problem. But you have to write this L, because this would represent that you are going to work with the long data type. That's an extra character that needs to be added in case of long type, which are not required for integer. Okay, so if somebody asks you what is the difference between integer type and long, then obviously number of bytes will come in picture. You may remember the range, you may not remember the range, but at least if you say number of bytes, that will be very fine. But obviously you have to say about this extra character in case of long that is adding. Similarly, if you see over this column, what are these columns? These are the default values that the variable will be having in case you declare a variable of following type. So in case of byte 0, 0, 0, but in case of long it has to be 0L. So this comparison can also be put forward by you. Okay, now let's come to the float part. This is also very, very interesting. So in case of float, you have got again a default value of 0.0, and in case of float you have to write the letter F either in uppercase or in lowercase, no issue. The number of bytes the float will take is 4 bytes in comparison to that of double, who will be taking 8 bytes. And in case of double, you have to represent with the letter D, that is in uppercase or lowercase, but this is an optional. I repeat, this representation is optional. I will show you over here. So here in case of float, I have got the value, following value. Suppose if I'm not writing F over here, and then see what happens. Again, there is a incompatible type. So in case of absence of F would means that according to Java, it is assuming that probably you are going to work with double. So that's the reason it's saying that, do you wish to work with double? So obviously no, I don't want to work with double, because the data type I mentioned over here is float. So make sure you write F over here, then there is no problem. Now coming to double, it's optional. You may write it, you may not write it. See, if you don't write it, there's no problem. See, compilation, no error, because the double has got a pretty big range, so it can understand that it is not a float. But if you wish to write D over here, there's no problem with that. That is also welcome. Okay, so this can be a very important difference between float and double, that in case of float you have to add an extra character, that is F, and it is of 4 byte. Okay, so finally you can go for printing all the respective variables which I have used with all the literals that I have assigned the time when I wrote this program. So let me just run the program over here and let's see how the program looks like. Here is my instance, so you can give a name to the instance, no issue. You click it and here you go with the function, and as I do that, the function output comes in. So let me keep the program and the function side by side. It will look very good. I love to see it in this way. So you can see these are the 4 integral representation, as you can see over here, integer representation, and the last 2 is the float representation, all 6 coming under the category of integral data type that is there in Java. Okay, I believe this particular video helped you to understand how data type in Java are effective. What are the points you should remember when you are using the data type depending upon the data that it will be holding. And make sure you go through these questions because these are very important questions for your exam. Keep this particular picture in your mind as you answer these questions. Okay, so that's all from this video presentation. Don't forget to subscribe my channel. See you in next video. Thank you so much.